differences between Peruvian Pisco, Chilean Pisco, and Singani, you learn that there are 5 production regions in Peru. They are Lima, Ica, Arequipa, Moquegua, and the Locumba, Sama, and Caplina Valleys of Tacna. All the regions produce different but very high caliber brandies. Pisco is a distilled wine. Just like wine, many factors will determine a Pisco's quality, including the practices used to raise the grapes, the skill of the producer, and the terroir of the vineyard. We will cover terroir in detail in the next lesson, but before that, let's take a closer look at each of the 5 regions.
The northernmost production region is Lima. As you already know, Lima is the capital of Peru, a bustling city of more than 10 million people. Did you know that Lima is also a department? There are 24 departments in Peru, similar to states in the U.S. The Department of Lima extends way beyond the capital to encompass more than 32,000 square kilometers. It is also recognized by the denomination of origin as a Pisco-producing region. Within the Lima production region, you will find Pativilca to the north and Cañete to the south. Azpeitia, where PiscoLogia is made, is located only an hour south of the city of Lima. Now, I could list hundreds of interesting facts about each Pisco region, but we have a lot of material to cover in this lesson, so I will focus on a couple for each one. There are 2 interesting facts about the DO of Lima that you have heard before, but they're worth mentioning again. First, the uvina grape is only allowed to be grown in the Cañete province of the region of Lima, in the towns of Lunahuaná, Pacaran, and Zúñiga. Remember, uvina is the green olive grape? Just to refresh your memory, another interesting fact is that the first grapevine to be planted in the Americas was planted in the city of Lima, and therefore in the DO of Lima, between 1539 and 1541. Finally, to see examples of the irrigation techniques of the native Peruvians that made grape growing possible in Peru, head 25 kilometers southeast of Lima. There you will find an archaeological site called Pachacama, which was first settled around 200 AD and flourished for about 1,300 years until the Spanish invaded. Within the 600 hectares of land that Pachacama covers, you can see evidence of irrigation techniques such as the one in the photo. Ica is to the south of Lima. Here you will find some of the largest vineyards and distilleries in Peru. According to the Ministry of Production, Lima and Ica are the leading regions in terms of Pisco production. In fact, about 80 to 90% of Peru's Pisco comes from Lima and Ica. Here are a couple interesting facts about Ica. Remember when you heard about the origin of the word Pisco? You will recall that the port city of Pisco was named after the many birds along the coastline. The city of Pisco is located in the denomination of origin of Ica. Here you can see the most common varieties and typical soil types in Ica. The most common varieties are Quebranta, Torontel, and Moscatel. Another fascinating fact is that the stronghold of Afro-Peruvian culture in Peru is located in the Ica region outside Chincha, more specifically in the town of El Carmen. El Carmen dates back to the 17th century when Jesuits began settling in the area and depended upon slavery for labor. The town and the district of Chincha soon became the plantation capital of Peru, producing sugar and cotton. After the abolition of slavery in 1854, families stayed in the area of Chincha and the town of El Carmen, making it the largest settlement of Afro-Peruvians in Peru, where they have mostly maintained their traditions and culture. Finally, you have undoubtedly heard of the Nazca lines. Created by the Nazca culture, they are large geoglyphs made in the desert. Scientists believe the Nazca people created them to be seen by gods in the sky. And on the left of your screen, you can see a picture of the Nazca lines. They also make delicious Pisco in Nazca. The regions south of Ica, Arequipa, Moquegua, and Tacna, are known for Negra Criolla Piscos and acholados made with Negra Criolla and Moscatel or Italia. In Arequipa, you will find Pisco-producing regions such as the Carabalí Valley, the highest Pisco-producing region in Peru, and the Majes Valley. The Carabalí Valley is located about 2 hours from the coastline. Carabalí was the first part of Peru to be divided up and given out to Spanish conquerors, so it didn't take long for them to plant grapes there. Evidence shows that the first was planted in 1548 for the Jesuit monks. Because of Carabalí's relative isolation, it was protected against destruction in the War of the Pacific against Chile. Other towns in the south weren't so lucky and were pillaged and burnt to the ground by Chilean troops. You can still see many remains of the original bodegas, like what you see here on the right of your screen. The Majes Valley is about 180 kilometers away from Arequipa. It gets its name from Spanish, majestuoso, which means majestic or beautiful, Besides finding delicious pisco, you will also find the Toro Muerto petroglyphs from the Wadi culture in Peru, a civilization that flourished in Peru from about 500 to 1000 AD. The Wadi successfully constructed an empire administered by provincial capitals, connected by a large road network. They were also gifted agriculturalists and constructed canals to irrigate terraced fields, methods that significantly influenced the Inca civilization that came to rise after. In Arequipa, the most common grape varieties are Negra Criolla, Moscatel, and Italia. To the south of Arequipa is Moquegua, where you won't find many Quebranta grapes, but you will find Negra Criolla, Albilla, Italia, and Mollar varieties. Here's a map of the Moquegua region where I've indicated 3 pisco-producing districts, Omate, Moquegua, and Ilo. An interesting fact about some parts of Arequipa, Moquegua, and Tacna, the region you will learn about next, is that in these regions, they used to bury their earthenware fermentation jars when making wine and pisco. This allowed them to control the temperature during fermentation. This practice was not used in other parts of Peru, making these regions especially unique. Artifacts suggest that the technology and organization of winemaking in the Moquegua area reflects Spanish models, but also earlier Roman models. As you can see on the slide on the right, you will see examples of Roman amphoras used for fermenting and aging wine. On the left are vessels used in the Moquegua region. As you can see, they have a very similar appearance. Finally, if you head south of Moquegua, you will reach the southernmost region, Tacna. Located on the border with Chile, this region includes smaller areas producing pisco, only in the valleys of Caplina, Locumba, and Sama. In Tacna, you will find mostly Negra Criolla, Italia, and Quebranta varieties. Because the Negra Criolla grape is the dominant variety in Arequipa, Moquegua, and Tacna, I'd like to talk more about that. You can refer back to the DNA of pisco grapes chart in Lesson 9 for a clearer picture. Negra Criolla is another name for the Listan Prieto variety, the first grape to be planted in the Americas. Remember, it was planted in Lima sometime between 1539 and 1541? This variety is known in the U.S. as the mission grape because they were introduced from Spain to the coast of the Americas by Catholic missionaries for use in making sacramental, table, and fortified wines. Now that explains the name in English, but what does criollo or criolla mean in Spanish? Criollo or criolla refers to a person or thing of Spanish descent, born or developed in the Americas. Anything can be criolla or criolla. That means people, music, or in this case, grapes. The Negra Criolla is a grape variety of Spanish descent that developed in the Americas. Finally, we can't teach about Peru without mentioning llamas and alpacas. Did you know alpacas and llamas have very close relatives called vicuñas? Vicuñas are wild camelids that produce small amounts of extremely fine wool, which is very expensive because the animal can only be shorn every 3 years and has to be caught from the wild. The Incas valued vicuñas highly for their wool, and it was against the law for anyone but royalty to wear vicuña garments. Today, the vicuña is the national animal of Peru and appears on the Peruvian coat of arms. Here on your slide, you can see a picture of vicuñas at the Villa Cota Maure Conservation Area in Tacna. Now, to wrap up this lesson, we covered a significant amount of information about the Pisco regions. Check how much information you absorbed by completing the activity for Lesson 11. Thank you.